Thessan's eyes snapped open. For the first time in centuries, the aurora glow around his head flickered and died. The dream sanctum went silent. No whispers, no visions, just the cold, sterile air of the bridge. The waking world was a jagged, ugly thing, and in front of him, the human ship was still firing. The deck of cards sat unopened on the soft, curved navigation console 48 hours before the visions stopped. It was a relic from a dead human colony, a curiosity Thessan had flagged during his first dream cycle as a trainee Sentinel. At the time, the mundane weight of the paper felt grounding against the ethereal pull of the dream realm. Deep within the soft curved hull of the monitoring vessel, the air smelled of ozone and recycled peace. Thessan drifted in the nectar of the half-sleep, his mind woven into the collective consciousness of the dream sanctum. Beside him, the Vrith scout Kroll stood with skin that was moist and vibrant, a deep jade that spoke of confidence. They were an armada of two worlds, the Vrith providing the lidless eyes of the physical, while the Sivan provided the precognition of the spirit. Together, they watched the contested relay station. The dream sanctum had seen the future for 11,000 years, and it whispered of a long, undisturbed era of dominance. A low thrum. The sound vibrated through the floor, a physical intrusion into Thessan's meditation. It was the assembly of the fleet, a majestic gathering of curved hulls and shimmering shields. The wreath ships were sleek, aquatic needles darting between the massive glowing spheres of the Sisyphean monitors. To power the dream sanctum's link across the entire fleet, the relay station's output had been peaked to its absolute limit. In the dream realm, this looked like a blinding sun of intelligence, a psychic magnifying glass that should have revealed every threat within 3 sectors. Then, the single human cruiser arrived. It did not drop from warp with a flourish or a signature blast of energy. It simply existed where it hadn't been a moment before, a brutalist slab of matte gray metal that refused to reflect the light of the nearby stars. The dream sanctum didn't even ripple at its arrival. To the precognition engines, the ship was a ghost, a void in the flow of destiny. Thessan watched through his half-closed eyes as the human vessel began to deploy its systems. It wasn't launching fighters or firing torpedoes. Instead, it was vomiting a volume of hardware that defied logic. Satellites, drones, and sensor pods began to bloom from its flanks like a metallic infection, thousands of them forming a dense, intricate web that began to choke the space around the relay. Thessan felt a prickle of unease. His aurora glow pulsed a nervous violet, reflecting the data stream from the dream realm that remained stubbornly empty of this new reality. The human ship sat at the center of its growing web, silent and unmoving, while the combined armada moved into a flanking position. Inevitability. That was the word the Vrith commander used over the comms, his voice wet and confident. They had the numbers, the position, and the foresight. They were prepared for a war of ships and shields. But as the human automated systems finished their mesh, the very nature of the sector began to change. The human cruiser wasn't preparing for a battle. It was preparing an environment. The human cruiser didn't fire a single beam of light. Instead, it spoke in the language of physics. A series of dull thuds echoed through the vacuum, vibrations captured by the wreath's sensitive hull sensors. Massive chunks of metal, accelerated to hypersonic speeds, began to tear through the armada's shimmering shields as if they were wet paper. These weren't missiles. They were slugs of raw iron and tungsten launched by electromagnetic catapults. The human ship was using electricity to turn inertia into a god. Thessan watched, horrified, as the first Vreth needle ship was struck. It didn't explode. It shattered. The kinetic energy was so absolute that the ship simply ceased to be a cohesive object, becoming a cloud of jagged debris. "They're out of ammunition," Kroll hissed, his voice cracking. The Vreth scout's skin was no longer a healthy jade. It was turning a sickly, papery gray. His lidless eyes filmed over with a milky white sheen, the biological sign of extreme dehydration brought on by terror. Kroll was wrong. The human cruiser didn't need more ammunition. Its automated drones were already swarming the wreckage of the first Verth ship, reeling in the largest fragments with magnetic tethers. They fed the debris back into the cruiser's launch rails. The humans weren't just winning the war. They were recycling it. The ship was manufacturing its weapons from what it destroyed. Silence fell over the fleet. It was a heavy, suffocating thing. Then, the bridge's internal chronometer began to flicker. The numbers turned a violent, bloody red, ticking downward with a speed that matched no known Thesiva time unit. "The timer on your bridge isn't ours," a voice crackled over the emergency frequency, cold and devoid of inflection. It was the human automated system. "Your own ship started counting down. Even your technology knows." Thesan felt the dream sanctum begin to scream, not with sound, but with the psychic weight of 10,000 dreamers realizing the same truth at the same time. The future they had seen for 11,000 years was being rewritten in real time by a machine that didn't care for destiny. Across the fleet, the aurora glows began to dim. One by one, the Sentinels were being severed from the dream realm, forced into the brutal, singular reality of the waking world. The moment stretched wide. Time didn't just slow, it added a new dimension. Thesan could see the moment from every angle. He saw his crew frozen in the amber of their own panic. He saw a dust mote suspended in the flickering light of the bridge. He saw the inevitable arc of the next hypersonic slug. Both realities, the dream and the waking, aligned for the first time in his life. Both showed only destruction. There was no escape in either world. Thesian's eyes snapped open. The transition was a physical blow, a shearing force that felt like his soul was being torn in half. The aurora glow died instantly. The dream sanctum went silent. No whispers, no visions, just the cold, sterile air of the bridge and the jagged, ugly truth of the sensor feed. The human ship was still firing. The silence on the bridge was total. It was the silence of a species that had forgotten how to live without the future to guide them. Thesian reached out with a trembling hand and touched the deck of cards on the console. He finally understood the vision of the sealed room. In human culture, the ace of spades was the death card. The dream hadn't been a warning, it was a postscript. The missing card was the human cruiser itself, the one variable absent from their intelligence that would kill them all. They had dreamed their own end and spent 48 hours admiring the scenery. Thesan looked at the screen. The cruiser still had plenty of ammunition. "The record of the dream sanctum is hereby closed. We sought the stars and found only the cold, hard weight of the present. We'll be here again when the next cycle begins, so make sure to come back and bear witness to what remains."